What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Hampton, your host. No, I'm just kidding. It's me, it's Lana. I'm the office manager here at Power Company. I just wanted to pop in real quick and tell you about something special we're doing. Hopefully you've been enjoying these daily episodes of essays from Chris's book, The Hard Truth, Simple Ways to Become a Better Climber. Maybe you're even thinking you'd like to snag a copy of the book for yourself. Well, it's the perfect time to do so, because right now, through June 10th, in celebration of the 1-year anniversary, when you purchase a copy of The Hard Truth, we will be sending you some extra freebies. And I don't know about you, but I love freebies. Okay, so in addition to a copy of the book and some stickers, you'll also get a commit journal, which is a little notebook that's easy to throw in your pack, jot down some quick notes or whatever. 3 postcards of illustrated charts from our good friend Brendan Leonard of Semi-Rad Media. And another one of Brendan's charts from the book, The Success Built from Failure's Pyramid, in the form of a refrigerator magnet. So you can slap it on your fridge or camp stove or back of a car, wherever. Oh yeah, and Chris is going to sign your book too, so that's pretty neat. So head on over to powercompanyclimbing.com, click on the Hard Truth button, or banner, whatever, and you'll get yourself a copy. The offer runs now through June 10th, or until we run out of the free stuff, so don't dilly-dally. And you can find that link in the show notes too, on your handy-dandy pocket supercomputer, as Chris would say. Okay, now on with the show.
Right. Maybe don't know. This time. Power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
Afterword. Originally, the subtitle of this book was Easy Ways to Become a Better Climber. My friend Tyler pointed out that while he often finds my advice simple, he rarely finds it easy. We immediately changed the subtitle. To be perfectly honest, I often look back on these essays and feel as if maybe I'm being too repetitive or too harsh. Then I remember how often, thousands of times over the past few years, that I've had to reiterate these ideas to my friends, clients, and to myself. Yes, these are simple concepts, not easy. In most cases, it's these ideas that usher in the biggest changes. Change. Another simple but not easy concept. Like I mentioned in the introduction, I believe in it, fiercely. But it's not going to happen unless you want it. Unless you want to fight for it, to see the entire process through, to care about the outcome. I'm on this journey with you. I'm a work in progress, constant reevaluation. Head down, but eyes up, driving forward with knowledge of what's in the rear view, taking care to be the best I can, and not expecting more. Acknowledgements. I've got too many ideas and not enough time. But there are a handful of people who hold me accountable to some of these ideas in different ways. Without them, this book, this company, this systematic dream chasing couldn't happen. My wife, Annalisa, who somehow puts up with my insatiable need to be creating something, tells me that she's proud of what I've built just enough to keep me going, but not so much that I can rest on my laurels. My daughter, Katie, who I work hard to be an example for. She told me that sometimes I need to soften the blow, but for some reason still comes to me for doses of reality. I try to soften them, sometimes. The whole team at Power Company Climbing. I never envisioned it as a team in the beginning, but I'm damn sure happy that it is. Sometimes it seems a little out of control, but if it didn't, we'd all be bored silly. Brendan Leonard, who I bonded with over a love of hip-hop and whose illustrations brought much-needed color to these essays. For 20 years, I made my living as an artist while Brendan made his as a writer. He somehow agreed to trade places with me for this project. That he finds my perspectives worthy is an honor. And most of all, the community of people who've supported this thing I've been building. I've written essays, recorded podcasts, made videos, and created products because of you. It's because you cared to hear what I had to say that I took care in saying it. That I'll continue to say it, make it, do it, build it. This book is the first, certainly not the last. Thanks for keeping me accountable. So I've had pretty much everybody in this series about the hard truth introduce themselves, but I'm going to just read your bio from the book because when I wanted to write your bio, I looked at bios in other places of yours and I was like, this dude is too humble. I'm going to write his bio. So I'm going to read your bio if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Brendan Leonard is an award-winning storyteller, author, and filmmaker, and a must-stop on your daily Instagram scroll, assuming you're able to laugh at yourself. As the creator of semirad.com, he's accurately been referred to as the voice of our generation of outdoor adventurers. A former contributing editor for Climbing Magazine, he's also written about climbing for Alpinist, Outside, National Geographic Adventure, and CNN.com. His books range from the trademark pointed humor of Bears Don't Care About Your Problems to the introspective inspiration of 60 Meters to Anywhere. Addicted to collecting vintage hip-hop vinyl, he has a love-hate relationship with running long distances and is currently working on making things. Accurate or no?
Yeah, that's accurate. It's funny, those are always like some of, like I've written one piece for CNN.com, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid like $100 or something. And but I was just like, when they asked, they asked her, will you write something about Mount Everest? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, that'll be great. It'll be fun to have on my resume. And then I never wrote for them again. Like they literally emailed me maybe the next year or the year after that. And they were like, hey, would you want to comment on, I forget, maybe it was the disaster where all the people died. And I was like, I don't have anything to say. Thanks though. Like I don't want the work. I just want the little thing for my bio, like I consciously did that. So
it's cool to know that we've paid you more than CNN.com.
Oh yeah. It's really funny. We've always had a UPS store mailbox. So like we don't get mail at our house and, or packages. And this comes from living in Denver for so long. But they sent me a check, I guess, and, this guy just emailed me out of the blue and he was like, hey, this is going to sound funny, but your check got put in my mailbox at the UPS store and I do a lot of work for CNN and I didn't even read the name on it and I cashed it. And I'm like, he's like, I deposited my account. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'll just let him know. And he's like, I'll take care of it. Just my apologies. They probably think they emailed, they probably think, they sent it to you. And I'm like, what are the odds? I mean, there's like maybe 100 mailboxes there, and this guy's like, it might've been $200. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't like about the money at all for me. But yeah, I eventually got paid. So.
Well, I think Lana's sending the money to the right place in this instance. So
it's
hopefully you're getting all that.
I feel really smart about that deal too. I was like, yeah, why don't you, instead of like paying me cash, why don't you just pay me a percentage of sales since you're such a sales machine? This will be great. And it's like, this is so great. I'm so smart. These little drips of income every month. I'm like, Chris's book is doing well again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's doing really well. And I think you're a big part of that. Number one question I have is, how do you feel about me totally jacking your charts and making charts of my own now?
Well, I didn't invent that, dude. I mean, it's not like I don't know how many people are familiar with XKCD, it's a website, but he does a lot of drawings, but he's also written a couple books now, Randall Monroe. But that was sort of the original thing that got me thinking that way to do things in charts. There's this XKCD chart called Fuck Grapefruit, and it's an XY chart of tastiness of fruit versus how difficult it is to like actually get it to where you can eat it. And like, so like a strawberry would be easy and tasty, but then like,
pomegranate would be impossible.
Yeah. And like grapefruit's pretty tough. And then like, pineapple is like way the hell out here for this is so hard, but it's just a hilarious chart. And, people message me all the time on Instagram, not all the time, like, a couple times a month or every couple of weeks, but they'll be like, hey, you should draw this chart. I'm like, dude, I don't have like I don't have like a patent on drawing funny charts. You can literally just get yourself a piece of paper and do it yourself. Like, why don't you do it? Like, it's not like I'm doing rocket science over here. There's some aesthetic thing. It's like literally I sit down and draw it by hand. Like, so I know. And then some other people will be like, this person's stealing your style. I'm like, what style? You know, there's like multiple people on Instagram who make charts like that. And, so
see, this is why I wrote your bio, because you're just too humble about it.
Well, it's not that original. Yeah.
I think there's an interesting way that you view the world, and that's why your charts work the way that they do. You know, true, anyone can make the drawings, but the relationships you see between things, I think, is what makes it so cool.
I don't know if it's that unique though, because people will send me ideas. And I think like sometimes I'm like, that's a really good idea actually, but I'm not going to do it because like if somebody likes it and they're like, hey, you should put this on a coffee mug, I can't just take Bob's idea, sell coffee mugs and be like, I don't want to deal with the like, hey, Bob, I'll give you 50% of every one of these because this was your idea. You know, this guy sent me this idea like years ago and I still think about it, where he's like, you should draw a chart. It's like where it shows how good you think you look like you're running when you run past the camera in a marathon. Like you see the race photographer out there. Yeah. And then when you see the photo after the race and it just looks like you're dying, you know, like you're walking. I'm like, man, that is totally true. But I've never done it because I can't, you know, but people see those relationships and
I think they do, but I think they're prompted a little, you know, by you and by other people who are, you know, depicting these relationships in one way or another. There are definitely times where I'm like, has Brendan done a chart about this? You know, has Brendan done a chart about how many zippers it takes to get out of a tent? And, you know, just whatever, any situation I have that I see that relationship, I'm like, I wonder if Brendan's already done this and I'm remembering it from one of his charts or if I just had this idea.
I've done that to myself where I've been like, you know what I should write a thing about? And then I'll search my blog and be like, oh my God, I wrote about that in 2015. Shit. Maybe I should quit, you know? Yeah.
Recycling your own material. That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's why I asked you to do the book. Like, I could obviously draw some things. I did the banana, I did our portraits for our bios, but I wanted your take on, like, read this, find the even simpler way to say it in an image, because I had distilled these essays down to as simple as I can get, you know? And then I'm like, here, simplify it further into this one little chart. And you banged them out and just sent them all over.
Well, what's funny,
it feels like a day later.
Yeah. Well, it was easy because you and I think alike in so many ways, where it's just like, I mean, essentially the thesis of the book is stop bullshitting yourself, try harder. Yeah. You know, like if you want to knock it down to one sentence, but people will read all those essays and 2 or 3 of the points in them, they'll take with them. They'll be like, okay, I read the whole thing, but you underline 3 things out of a book and you're like, that was worth my $15 or whatever, you know? And that's, but you and I are so, you know, like, and I think that probably comes from the examination of our own excuses, where you're like, am I really that busy? Or did I really try that hard? Or did I, you know, or am I just making excuses? So number one, it was super fucking easy to draw your stuff. Cause I'm like, exactly. This is exactly what we're doing. Like, people do this all the time. It's bullshit, you know? And, but also what's funny is like that you're an actual artist and I am a writer, and we just switch roles for the book. Like, yeah, I love this. That. Is the irony of this is so fucking hilarious. Like, yeah.
I loved it. And even more than that, I've found over these last 2 years or so that one of the biggest joys in my life is making things with my friends. You know, whatever that is, whether it's we're developing a boulder problem together, whether it's we're working on a book, working on a song, a podcast, whatever it is, I love that collaborative process and seeing the final thing that I made with my friends. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. The sum becomes more, or the whole is more than the sum of the parts or whatever. Like, yeah, it's always nice to bounce things back and forth and they just become bigger and better. Hopefully, I guess, instead of worse. But yeah, I think about that a lot. Like musicians, like work, like bands, like, oh my God, how does that even work? And how do people stay together for like decades of working together and not kill each other and still keep making music, Yeah.
And you mentioned a few minutes ago that your charts kind of started from, I can't remember the Instagram name.
XKCD. It's not even Instagram. It's just a website. XKCD.
Yeah. And is that where you got the idea for your flow charts? Because that's kind of how your charts started, were flow charts, right?
I don't even remember what that came from, but I remember I was sitting in the Denver Bicycle Cafe and I was like, I'm going to just draw a flow chart about how to poop in the woods. And I had some typing paper with me. I was living in my van at that time and I was just like, I'll just draw it. And then I took a photo of it and it instantly became the most virally shared thing ever on my blog. But then beyond that, people just like literally took the photo and shared it without attribution or whatever. So it kind of was like, it was a very interesting learning experience for me. Like, oh, people are just going to do this. Okay. Interesting. And then from there, I finally bought an iPad in 2016 and started drawing more, started doing it. I was bored with Instagram. I was just like, okay, I mean, essentially it seemed like I was just looking at people's like vacation photos. I'm like, okay, this is cool, whatever. And I started following a bunch of cartoonists and I was like, this is actually really great. Because now I just open up my phone and laugh my ass off for like 5 minutes. And then I shut it, turn the app, close the app and move on with my day. As opposed to being like, I don't know, like, okay, cool. I'm glad you're in beautiful places and whatever. But cartoons, man, these little 5-second things where you can look at it and go, oh, wow. Yeah, they really nailed it. So I thought, what can I do? I can't draw characters. I don't have the skills to put together an actual cartoon, but I could probably do this, And I'm trying to branch out a little bit more. So it's not just like pie charts and bar graphs and stuff like that, and try to get, which drawing the stuff for the book really helped with, I think, because I came up with some things based on your writing. And I'm like, because you don't want to just fill a book like that with like 25 of the exact same looking thing, like
right.
Venn diagram in every chapter. Like, Jesus, that would be so annoying, So, and there's a limit to what types of charts people actually understand. Like, yes, we all probably finished like 10th grade, math or whatever for sure. Like, but to a point, people are like, things get way too complicated and people just are not going to sit there and go, I don't get this. Let me keep thinking about this Instagram post for like 10 minutes. And like, oh, I got it. Like you don't get any points for that for sure. So.
Right. Well, I love the simplicity of it and the pointedness, and maybe even most the relatability of it all. Like, that's one of the things about these episodes I've been doing, where I'm just reading the chapter and then having these short discussions. And I've gotten so much feedback that I didn't expect from people who are like, oh, I love hearing how someone else, related to that chapter. I read the book, but now it's like I'm reading it again and hearing it from a different perspective. And I didn't expect that at all. I almost felt like when I came up with this idea to celebrate the book, that it was a little bit of a cop-out. Like, I'm just going to read a chapter a day and boost my podcast numbers, But it's been really successful and people love hearing it. And it's fun for me to hear how other people are accepting what we put out into the world.
Because you never do, besides like...
Right.
Amazon reviews or the people who will take the time to actually write an email to you and be like, hey, this really made a difference to me. But yeah, that's a super cool idea. And now you can just make it into an audiobook when you're done recording
Totally.
You just chop up the files, be like, okay, here you go, Kindle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Dude, what are you working on now? You're a machine over there, and I am constantly in this place of like, Jesus, Brendan wrote another book. There's another book coming out.
Well,
there's so many. I love it.
You know what's funny? Well, yeah, I wonder what it's like for people who write books that actually sell a lot of copies, because I have very few of mine actually sell through the advance. Well, that's not true. But like maybe four of them have, maybe 5 total. But like, and those are not books that I got a big advance for. Some of these books I wrote, I got like a $4,000 advance, and they just haven't sold that many copies for whatever reason. So you just did it for this one-time payment. And you're like, oh, whoops, that was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, so I just joke like, yeah, maybe one of these will take off at some point, and I'll be able to stop writing so many books. But I don't know, man. I enjoy reading books. I read about 50 books a year. If you include, like, I don't know, I listen to like 10 or 12 audiobooks a year, but I read and I buy shit tons of books too, man. Like,
same.
I mean, like, I'm just like, this is just some on the wall here. Like, and now, like, I'm okay. I'm at the point in life where I get a little bit of money, and I'm like, okay, why do I work so hard? And one of the answers is like sneakers and vinyl
records.
Yeah, but a big answer is so I can buy coffee table books, apparently. And like, yeah, it's crazy. Like this, I have a couple books. One is called Soviet Bus Stops. And it's literally just photos of bus stops in the former Soviet republics. And it's like a $30 book. And I've loved this book so much. I just love that it exists, and, and there's a sequel. And I'm like, every time I'm like shopping for books, I'm like, I should probably just buy that second one. And then there's another one for like transit stations. It's just, and I'm like, why do I want these? But,
is this playing into how much or how busy your travel schedule used to be? Is this part of it?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, haven't gone anywhere for like a year. Maybe.
But
no,
I
just like
books.
Like, I like the idea of so this guy says in this book, in the introduction, like, you'd think like just I believe he's a British guy and bicycled from, I think, London to like Russia, maybe somewhere in Russia, early on. I was like struck by the how unique all these bus stops were. And he was like, so I thought I'd go back and photograph all of them. And you'd think, yeah, why don't you just take buses? And it's like, that's incredibly inefficient. So he would hire taxi drivers to drive him around to these bus stops. And they would be like, what are we doing? And he'd be like, yeah, I'll take you for the whole day. And he's like, as we started doing it, they started to get excited. Like near the end of the day, they'd be like, let's just do one more, and like how much fun he had with it. And it's just like, to me, it's this incredible, it's really inspiring on an art level where you go, oh yeah, you can just make a book that's all photos of. A lady did one in 2016 of rest areas in America, which looks rad as shit. And I'm like,
see, I see what's happening here. It's half the travel theme, and it's half what you do in your charts so damn well is you take this normal everyday thing and you find something really interesting about it. You find the beauty in it. You find the irony in it, whatever it is, and you present it in a new light. And these people are doing the same things with bus stops and rest areas, and you're fascinated by it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, but it's like, how do you share this thing that you find interesting? And there's many different ways of doing that, from journalism to, charts, photography, all that stuff. And I mean, I don't know. I don't really have an idea of what a career should look like, but I know I want to just keep making stuff, and that's sometimes I really enjoy designing t-shirts too, like that's a fun thing for me. It also makes a little bit of money, but it's like super fun to be like, oh my God, did you know you can just like put the F word on a t-shirt in some way? And okay, not that many people will buy it, but like people can buy that because you did that. And that's so funny to me that like, that can exist. And it's fun to think about why people buy t-shirts. And it's because they want to say something about themselves to the world on their shirt, And so it's fun. I've been experimenting with that sort of thing. And like, it's different than a coffee mug, because a coffee mug is you mostly want to say something to yourself or remind yourself of it. But maybe if you take it to the office, you want to say it to your coworkers too. Like that's, that's something to think about, the ways these different products like speak to the world and like how we get messages out and how they exist in some sort of way of communicating things about us and signaling, like bumper stickers are so different than prints that you would hang on your wall, in your house or whatever.
Yeah. Different audience, different aesthetic of saying something. Do you ever, when I think of you initially, when we first met years ago, I would have described you as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think I probably would describe you as something more like a journalistic voice is the wrong word. But you're the voice of this generation of adventurers, I think. But I wouldn't just say writer anymore. How do you feel about having kind of transformed what you do from writer, which is what you went to school to do, into making t-shirts, drawing charts, all these other things that you're doing, because they're all forms of communication.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm probably aging out of being a voice of the outdoors. I think like I follow people on Instagram and I'm like, no, these people are more of the voice of the outdoors,
Are you becoming the voice of the love-hate relationship with running that the U.S. has?
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be the voice for anybody but me. I've met up with a buddy of mine who's my age, and I just said, like, I think he had a little injury or whatever. And I go, how you been? You having a little knee problem? And he goes, oh yeah, just middle-aged guy overdoing it. And I was like, that would be such a great t-shirt, or just like a total brand. Like that's me, middle-aged guy overdoing it. So if you want to capture it in a nutshell, but I think I approach everything as a writer still. I was talking to a friend about a possible film project, and he said something about a film I directed, and he's like, your style is like, it's like pretty ramshackle, and like, and I was like, yeah, it totally is. And we both laughed because it was like so honest that he would say that. But I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and act like my shit is, cinematography wise good, like I also don't know that great cinematography means you made a great film, So
absolutely, to
me, the story always comes first. And I approach everything as a writer, and to structure a film, you sit down with a shitload of Post-it notes and like, where do we put this? Where do we put this? Does this matter? Okay, throw that away. And it's like you're writing a story. And to me, it's always gonna work that way. It doesn't start with like an image, to me, or a video, a shot. It doesn't. That's not how my brain works. And everything I think, everything I do, and everything I am a fan of art-wise is a story in some way, right? Where a bumper sticker is a story, in 5 words. Coffee mug can be a story. A tweet is a story. A book is a story, and like,
yeah.
I just sort of spit the thesis of your book back to you in like a sentence. But as I teach this in writing workshops too, I'm like, okay, people will say, what's War and Peace about? And someone will be able to capture that in a sentence. And you're like, well, why read
Right.
the book if it's just a sentence? And you're like, no. The experience is like, you got to read all, whatever it is, 700 pages or whatever. So stories are just drawn out or condensed to the point where we want to, how we want to interact with them.
I love that answer. It changes what a writer is. So maybe what I call you is a storyteller in all of its forms. And I love that you're still making, drawn out stories as well as super ultra condensed stories that you post to your Instagram.
Yeah. And I think about, like, I'm sure you have this too when you're thinking about ideas and you go, oh, should I write another book? Oh, maybe that's a podcast. Maybe it's this.
Right.
Like, you have many, many tools at your disposal too. So you're able to just like decide which is the best medium,
Mm-hmm.
And in your case, like I said, it's like, oh yeah, a book is also an audio book, which is also maybe sort of a podcast. Like, it's,
Yeah.
and to think about how you want to reach people and what is the best way to tell a story is interesting to me. And like, what medium you use is it's a weird spot to be in. It's great to be able to have the ability to do all these different things. Like, you can make a film on your phone, like, you don't need much. You can do, like, editing software is cheap or free. You can shoot an entire film on your phone, edit it on a computer and upload it, or not upload it. You can just make it an Instagram story. But I find that, like, using these things that have algorithms that you feel the pressure of. So like Instagram wants you to post every single day. If you ask somebody who's a professional influencer, they'll say, oh yeah, you have to post every day, and you want to do some, a bunch of stories every day, like 3 or more, probably. I don't even know what you're supposed to do. And I was like, yeah, I should be doing that. I should be doing more of that and trying to grow that. And I'm like, what the fuck for? Like, just like, that would drive me fucking nuts. And like, also, if I uploaded 7 things to Instagram a week, it's like at least 4 of them would be total shit, like just garbage. And I'm like, why would I do that to appease this algorithm? And also, like, doing stories all the time, I think I'm bad at it because I think I overthink them, and I'm just like, is this making the world a better place if I put this up there? Is this doing any service to anyone? And I get stage fright, and I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that, and I'm a bad creative because of that. But that's purely a platform thing. It's the platform that's like, it's like, oh yeah, we want you to be addicted to this, and we want you to interact with it all the time. And like, if I put up a successful Instagram story, the amount of messages I get back is like a whole nother thing on my to-do list for that day. It's like, oh, I got to respond to all these people. And I don't know if they're expecting that, but it's like, holy shit, this app really just wants to become my life. And you know what? No one's fucking paying me to do this shit. Like, so
right.
I've been thinking about it a lot. Like, okay, does that help me make art? Is this art? Or am I just doing maintenance of stuff? Is this helping me get somewhere? Is this helping other people get through their lives? And like, to have that all jumbled up by big tech is like a little bit weird for me. Like, at the end of the day, that stuff is very tiring. And I also, I just like, it doesn't feel like I did anything sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. And I definitely feel the, like, I don't want to put out something that's just shit. So, I'm going to end up spending more time on it. And if I'm supposed to do it this number of times a day or a week, how much time is that taking me? Even this book, when the idea, well, first off, you had been hounding me to make a book for years. And I'm like, okay, let me just try one. I've got all these old blog posts that kind of have a theme. I'm just going to put them all together and put them out as a book. And then I'm like, I can't put out just the blog posts because everybody has seen those already. So I'm going to write new ones as well. And I add those in. And then I'm like, oh, Brendan's charts would be perfect for this, especially since he's the person who's pushing me to make a damn book. So then your charts came into it. And then I'm like, I'm going to write some more chapters to follow up some of these and then send you more charts to make. And it became this whole ordeal and this whole thing. And we had to get the cover right and, had to lay it out the way we wanted it. And it became this big project that now I'm really proud of, but it sure as hell took a lot longer than an Instagram story.
Oh, for sure. And you don't have the metrics. I mean, you know how many of them are going out the door. You also haven't even been, it hasn't been out and you haven't been out to be able to see like, oh, wow, there's my book on the shelf at a climbing gym or a gear store, like it's a thing out in the world. Like it's been totally virtual for you. But yeah, it's like, and then the writing of it and the creating of it is only half of it. Then you're like, oh, now who's going to sell this book? And even with publishers, and I guess I don't have like an agent or anything, but even with publishers, a lot of times you're like, well, who is going to sell this book? And there are definitely people working on it, but sometimes you feel like I just don't I am responsible for a lot of the publicity of this thing, and you're better about this than I am, but I'm like to the point where I'm like kind of going, okay, I'm pretty sure everyone who follows me knows that I have a new book out. And if they were going to buy it, they would have bought it by now. So I can stop.
That's exactly what I thought when I started this podcast series.
Well, this is
everybody's already got the book.
This is a different way of doing it too, because you're creating this richer piece of media. It's not just like a tweet or like an Instagram post, like, hey, I got a book. I don't know if you know that it's out, so there's that whole thing. And like, I don't know, it's interesting. But yeah, and I will like talk to people and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you wrote books or something like that. I'll be like, fuck, I don't do a good job of promoting my stuff. Or I didn't know you did this. And like, oh, I didn't know you were that guy from that film. And like, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah,
I know. I get the same things where people are like, oh, you have a podcast? I'm like, how did you find out about me if you didn't find out about me from the podcast?
Right.
But I think everyone already knows about it, just not true. So yeah, we both need to be better about putting ourselves out there more, especially the things we've already made. We've already put the work in. We've got the thing, put it out there.
Yeah.
I am really, really happy to have your voice as a part of this book and to have this thing that sits on the shelf that I can give away to people, that I, get messages about, that I know is out there in the world, that was created in tandem with my friends. That means the fucking world to me. So thank you for doing it, and thank you for bringing your unique voice and perspective to it.
I mean, come on, thanks for involving me. We know you could have drawn all this stuff yourself, and like would have been more. Also, I think I should point out that this was not the book that I'm still pressuring you to write the other book.
That's true. That's true. There is another book.
Super fascinating and fun, but yeah.
Someday.
Oh yeah.
Someday when we're old, we'll hole up in a cabin in the woods and we'll just write.
Fuck. That's, that. I can't believe you literally just said someday, like as if that'll fucking happen. Like, oh yeah, someday I'll get to that. Right. Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. Maybe we should do it maybe I should just interview you as a series of podcasts, and then we just pay to have it transcribed, and then you have your first draft done. Be like, tell me about this story. Tell me about this story. How'd you get
now
from
you're
here
thinking
to here?
Like I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, I hope I get to see you and Hillary again soon, and we'll make it up there as soon as possible to see the new place and to hang out now that we're all microchipped and safe from aliens.
Yeah, are you still getting Microsoft Office auto updates? I feel like that should be. I've been
just included.
well, they just keep popping up. And I was like, I'm vaccinated, man. Like, just figure it out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brendan. I appreciate it, man.
Dude, thanks.
This has been really, really fun and really, really tiring. I'm sure you can hear through some of these episodes that my voice was completely giving out on me. I have to give a big shout out to Lana, not only for the commercial that she made and now is known locally as the Dilly Dally Girl, but also for helping with the scheduling and for organizing this whole project. It would have been a shit show had I been left to my own devices. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little bummed that this project is over. It's been really fun hearing the feedback from everyone about these chapters and how it made them feel to hear how it resonated with other people. So thank you all for interacting, for getting involved, and for your support of this book, of this podcast, of this whole thing that we're building. Because you've stuck through it, because you're still listening, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. First, I've started a podcast network along with my friends Devin Dabney and Mario Stanley, Plug Tone Audio. The starting lineup is the Power Company Podcast, Sins and Suffers, and the American Climbing Project, but there are more coming. I'm actually working on a new podcast with my friend Zach Alexander. It'll be called Theater of the Absurd, but that's all I can tell you right now. Be on the lookout for more this coming fall and winter. In the meantime, you know where to find us, powercompanyclimbing.com. You can find us on the Instagram, the Facebook, and the YouTube at Power Company Climbing. You can support this podcast by becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month, and you get extra board meetings every single month at patreon.com/powercompanypodcast, or you can click the link right there in your show notes, in your pocket supercomputers. And you can share all about this entire series, The Hard Truth. And if you want to, you can tweet about Theater of the Absurd coming. We won't see it because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
This time, to build power. This time 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 to build. This time to build.